When you hear the term age proofing, what does that mean to you? What do you think of when you hear the term or you read the term age proofing? Right? Well, for me, what it means is that it's a way to help ensure continued mobility, continued well-being, despite the progression of time. In other words, as we and our dogs get older, we still want to be able to do all the fun things. So we want to take steps now to help ensure that our dogs stay as happy, as mobile, and healthy as possible. So today I'd like to give you just some simple steps you can do to help promote that, to help age proof your dog. And in case we're meeting for the first time, my name is Mary DeBono, and this is the Easier Movement, Happier Dogs podcast. So, yeah, let's talk a little bit about the future because maybe right now your dog is on the younger side and super happy and healthy and doing all the zoomies and all the fun things. Like my dog Tony, he's 5.5. He's super active. We go on these long hikes every morning. He gets 2 additional walks. We play in our yard. I mean, he's very active. And I think about his future. I think about 12-year-old Tony. What is 12-year-old Tony going to be like? Or maybe 17-year-old Tony. After all, my dog Ruby, who was before Tony, she lived to be 17 and she was incredibly active and healthy right up to the end. Before that, we had Chester, who lived to be almost 18, and he also had this incredible, wonderfully active life. And we've had dogs before that as well. So, and I'm not saying that's always going to happen. It doesn't always happen. A previous dog we had, Jessie, she passed away from lymphoma at 12 and a half. Now, she was mobile up until then, but that took her. So we can't predict what the future is going to bring. It can bring all kinds of things. However, we can take steps today to help do our part to create the best environment for our dog, to have the best chance, basically, to having that healthy mobility as they age. So, and this is true for ourselves as well, right? There are many things we can do. And I often on this podcast talk about your mobility as well. Even just last week, episode 40, I believe it was, I gave in the resources too, this video you can do to help your knees and your back feel more flexible, to help you be able to do more things with your dog. So that is definitely a common theme on this podcast is your mobility, your well-being. Very important too. So let's just take one thing, like this is a common thing that you'll hear as far as uh, nurturing mobility for your dog is regular exercise. So I do want to say that, even though I'm going to add a lot more than just saying regular exercise, but I do want to acknowledge that that is so important. And that, I mean, big reason I do what I do with Tony, or why we're so active, is we both enjoy it so much. And I realize how important it is for his physical well-being and his emotional well-being, and mine as well, I might add. So there's that. So please ensure that your dog is getting really adequate movement, exercise, and mental stimulation as appropriate for your dog's age and condition. So you can discuss that with your vet, figure out what's right for you, for your dog, and talk to your physician about what's right for you as far as that, how much exercise you should be doing. So we'll get that out of the way. And then, of course, there's things like healthy, fresh food. There's lots of nutritional, information out there now about how we can help our dogs live healthier lives by improving their diet. And all that's very, very important, as well as regular veterinary exams. But now there's a few other things you can do as well. And they're pretty simple. They're pretty simple. One of them is to help improve your dog's body awareness. Now, it might sound funny, like, why does your dog need to have better body awareness. But what can happen over time, and I've seen this over and over again, and I've been doing this work professionally for more than 30 years. What I see is in humans and dogs and horses and other animals is that we get into habits of moving. We have certain habits of how we organize our movement, how we coordinate our parts, and we tend to kind of overuse some parts and underuse others. It's kind of like they get lost from our awareness, from our body awareness. And then that leads to overuse injuries on the parts that are being overused, and the other parts just kind of get a free ride. And it can lead to lots of stiffness, can lead to a lot of arthritis. It can lead to a lot of damage and increase the risk of an acute injury happening. It's like a ligament injury or something like that, or a muscle strain. So something as simple as helping kind of wake up the different parts for your dog just to remind their nervous system that all these parts are here can be really, really helpful. So, one way to do that is just say your dog is just lying down on their side. You're relaxed, you're sitting next to your dog, maybe on the floor, maybe on the couch, something like that. And you just very gently run your hands very slowly over your dog, but in such a way that you're like getting information from your dog. I like to explain this as like you can imagine that you're a sculptor and you want to sculpt a statue of your dog. So you need to know what everything really feels like. So for example, you use your fingers to trace along the edges of your dog's shoulder blades, right? You feel the nuances and the contours of your dog's spine. Right? You feel the ribs. Right? You feel down the bones of the leg. And then you find like what I call skeletal landmarks. Like you feel maybe the pelvis, right? And then you feel the outside of the hip joint and you feel the very back of the pelvis, the ischial tuberosity, they call it. And you could look up like a dog skeleton online, and it'll mark all these points for you. And some of them are very, very easy to find. For example, it's very easy to find the very back of your dog's pelvis. You can feel that bone, right? That bony prominence. And of course, there's one on each side, close to the tail. And then you can just, run your fingers a little more laterally and you find the outside of the hip joint. A little further, you're going to find a pelvic bone. Okay. And don't worry about whether you're finding the right things or not, or being able to identify them correctly. What matters is you being intentional about how you're, exploring your dog's body and having that sense of curiosity. And by doing it this way, it actually does change things in the dog's nervous system because you're doing something that's non-habitual. You're not simply petting your dog. I mean, petting is great. I'm not going to discourage you from petting your dog at other times, right? Something you both enjoy, probably lowers your blood pressure, feels good to you both. But this is different. This is like very intentional, very gentle exploration. And again, when you have your attention that way and your intention, it helps your dog's nervous system recognize, oh, this is different than what we usually do. And therefore, it brings the dog's nervous system starts to get more awareness of those parts. So it's like you can picture this yourself. If you're, sitting somewhere and, a very good friend or a partner or something starts to just very gently, touch and outline your shoulder blade, right? And maybe move it a little bit and was just really curious about that. And then maybe, went down your arm and then explored your hand, right? And say they did that for 5 or 10 minutes and then they stopped. You would sit there. I'm going to tell you right now, spoiler alert, your two sides would feel very different. One side would feel probably more alive, have more sensation to it, maybe even feel warmer or wider or longer. In other words, that very gentle exploration helped your nervous system have more awareness of those parts of you. Well, you can do the same for your dog. Okay. Sounds simple. It is, and it's profound. Can be very, very helpful. You don't need to do this every day or anything like this, but, occasionally. And you just do it in a relaxed way. You just do it very easily. You make sure you're breathing easily and you make sure you respect your dog's responses because your dog might say, "What are you doing? This is strange." But just pause your hands. Pause your hands. And if you need to at first do it like away from the body, you know, like have an air gap between you and your dog, that's fine too. And then actually, I did a podcast about working with touch averse dogs. So you can go back and look for that podcast where I go into detail about different things you can do if your dog is resistant to you touching them in this intentional way, because some dogs are. They have lots of reasons for being that way. And we want to respect that. So you never want to push yourself on your dog. Okay. That's really, really important. And I want to emphasize the work is very gentle. And then another thing you can do, I mentioned like if someone was doing this with you and they gently took a hold of your hand. Well, again, with your dog lying on their side, you can very, very gently just kind of feel their paw. Just very gently. You can use like the back of your hand or your palm to just press a little bit on the bottom of your dog's paw. And then very, very lightly, you can just, play with each toe, but it's really, really light and gentle. Now, if your dog has any negative response to that, do not force the issue. But this can be a very nice way of helping them get have better associations with having their nails handled, like their nails trimmed or dremeled. So it's something you might want to think about. But again, we're just talking just like you would do, you can do it now with your own hand. How would you take a finger and just very lightly move it, holding it very softly between the fingers of your other hand, just moving it a tiny amount. Okay. Super, super helpful because say you do that with the paws on one side of your dog. Say your dog is lying down, um, and you just do one side, and then they go to stand up. They're going to have a different sense of their body on that whole side because they have different sensory awareness of how their paws are touching the floor now. Okay, it's really interesting. So you really, I'm going to encourage you to do this with yourself as well, and maybe just do one side. This is also great to do with your feet, right? You can, just take your foot and just very gently explore the movement of each toe, like kind of curl the toe down and then away from the sole of your foot, maybe do little circles, but it's very, very light and gentle. And I want to really encourage you to be very light with your dog. It's almost just like a thought of moving the toes, okay? The toes are actually quite delicate. Same way our hands are delicate, but a dog's toes can be quite delicate. And if they have any kind of arthritic process going on, it could be painful for them. So you want to make sure you're not doing anything that causes pain. It's always good to check with your vet to make sure that what you're doing is appropriate for your dog, okay? And then the next thing I'll tell you about is something that I call rhythm circles. And I have a whole long, full length training for you on this. Okay. It's a free video series. And you can get that by going to marydebono.com/love dog. And that's all one word, all lowercase. And that link will be in the description or wherever you're listening or watching this. Okay. So it's marydebono.com love dog, all lowercase, all like one word. And there's other things. So there's rhythm circles in that, and those are they're profound, how they can help restore awareness as well as mobility. They act kind of like as a reset, and they've helped dogs of all ages and in all conditions. So that's a good thing. Oh, and as part of that free training, you also get a video about what I call connected breathing and a little work with the ribs. So you're going to want to look at that too, because you can add that. So it doesn't mean you have to do all these things at the same time. In other words, maybe one day you really just take 5 or 10 minutes to explore your dog's body. Another day you work with the feet, the paws for a few minutes, right? Another day you do the rhythm circles. Another day you do connected breathing. And again, it doesn't have to be every day. I would really encourage you just to start small. That's for two reasons. Number one, you and your dog are just getting used to this, and you're also honing your skill. And you don't want to have it as like it's a burden, it's like something you have to do. Instead, I would encourage you to think about it as this is incredibly bonding one-on-one time you have with your dog, where you and your dog can both kind of get like a reset, where you can calm your nervous system, lower your blood pressure. And remember, when you do these moves in this way with your dog, you're actually bringing more awareness to yourself as well. So it can help your mobility. Just make sure you're sitting in such a way that you're comfortable. Take as many breaks as you need to. You can sit on the couch, you can lean up against the couch, have your dog on the floor, or however you make it work for you. Some people have done things where they've padded up their coffee table and then had the dog on the coffee table lying down, and they're sitting up. They either have a chair or the sofa very close to the coffee table. So you figure out what works for you. Okay. That's important that you're comfortable as you do it. And when I say comfortable, I mean comfortable physically. It's not like your back is hurting or your neck is tight. You want to be comfortable because you want to transmit a sense of ease and pleasure of movement to your dog, not tension. Okay. So be comfortable. And you also want to be comfortable emotionally, if you will. You want to look at this as a positive thing that you're doing, not a have to, like I said earlier. Not this, oh my goodness, I have to do this, otherwise I'm a bad person, right? Instead, I would encourage you to think about the future. Put yourself and your dog in the future and imagine how you're both moving with ease and grace and just real happiness, right? Because you have more awareness of yourself, more mobility. Okay. So put yourself into the future and realize why you're doing this, right? That this is a good, positive thing for you and your dog. Okay. So really, your mindset will play a big role in this. So if you find yourself like just not having the time, feeling rushed, don't do it. Or if you only have 3 minutes, make them a luxurious 3 minutes. Okay? Luxurious. Don't say, I only have 3 minutes. Say, I have 3 minutes to spend with my dog. How lucky am I? And I'm helping my dog today and in the future and helping myself as well. I think those are some pretty positive things. So let me know how this goes for you. Again, I'd encourage you to sign up for that free video training, marydebono.com/love dog, all one word, all lowercase. And then let me know what you're struggling with. Does your dog currently have a mobility issue or maybe some behavioral type thing that you're dealing with that you'd like to help your dog improve? Or maybe you have something going on with yourself. Are your knees sore? Does your back ache? Is your neck stiff? Let me know and I'd be happy to do a podcast episode for you too. So thank you so much for joining me here. Go have fun with this. Let me know if you have any questions or any feedback. And as always, you and your dog deserve to feel great at any age. Thank you so much. I look forward to talking to you again soon. Bye for now.